It's my real pleasure to be here. It was a few years ago when I met Boris in Vuokatti in Finland, and he presented the CERECI program, and I was really attached by the methodology, and now I've been even more eager and enthusiastic about the method when I saw it in practical. And I've been here for a few days now and really enjoyed what I've been seeing. So Boris is not here, but I hope that Mark, okay, good. So I really feel honored to be invited here to see all these CERECI activities, and my deepest congratulations for CERECI program. It's wonderful and good future to continue with that. So today my topic is to try to give you some ideas what we have done in Finland. And first I start with children's physical activity. I want to be sure that we think it the same way. I also want to share with you experiences and examples of physical activity interventions that we have been carried out in Finland during last 15 years. Then I collected actually 4 different systematic analyses and tried to find out there what these analyses tells, what are those keys to successful physical activity interventions. So it would be helpful for us to make better future and better physical activity for our children. And finally, and at the end, I try to have some suggestions or practical implications based on our own experiences in our interventions, but also research-based results. So, this lovely Crete recognized my sister's lovely daughter. She's moving. But when we are talking about physical activity, we don't think that she's moving, because she's moving because the boat is moving where she's sitting. But all the physical activity that we are talking about here, and I'm talking about through these research results, I mean physically active play. We have been talking that Canadians, for example, talk about active play, but play can be also imaginary play that doesn't show coordinative muscle activity. So when we speak about physical activity with children, we need to be sure that we really mean physically active play. And for children, it's all kind of physical activity play. Hanging, stretching, throwing, whatever. Crete started today excellent presentation telling about all these important factors why children need physical activity to get important stimuli for their development. Their physical size, motor size, cognitive, psychological, social, emotional, ethical and moral. So we already know that it's necessary for children's normal growth and overall development. But it's also important for daily well-being and health. And children's daily well-being is having fun and joy, smile in their face. We have also recognized that physical activity, playing is also very contextual. So this data comes from Finland, measured by Acticraft, which shows the amount of moderate to vigorous physical activity. And we can see that when children are 8 years old, they are approximately, Finnish children, active 1 hour. Then the activity increase as long as they start the obligatory school at the age of 7. I've heard that almost every European countries and other countries, children need to start schooling much more earlier. But that's something when I want to underline when people are talking why Finnish children's PISA studies results, for example, are so high. Maybe one reason is that in Finland children are able to play 1 more year than quite many other countries. Of course, there are plenty of reasons, but perhaps that is one that hardly we remember to recognize or underline. But when they start school, so little by little physical activity decrease. So it's for sure that there's something that we need to do, and we need to ensure that children really receive appropriate amount of physical activity. In Finland, we have had 4 different interventions. 2 were family-based physical activity intervention studies, STRIP project and IMPACT project. I'm going to tell examples about those. Also preschool-based intervention studies, the early steps and HIPPA intervention. Through these different kind of intervention, we try to find out which kind of encouragement and actions should work in different environments. So first, let's start with family-based interventions. This STRIP baby project was started for a long time ago, 1990s, with more than 1,000 children. They were 7 months old, and they were with their families, of course, because they were so young. In 1994, when children were 3 to 4 year old children, we took more than 200 children's sample. They were randomly selected for physical intervention group and control groups. And we create 4 year, or actually it was 4.5 year long physical activity intervention program, which was based on social cognitive theory. And the main ideas of this intervention was to create positive atmosphere for families, for parents, so that they had the feeling that during that intervention they don't have the feeling that we must do something because there are other people asking or demanding. So there we suggest some possibilities to increase and support their children's physical activity, and they were able to choose what was good for them. There were nobody telling that you need to do such things. We also tried to have and use multiple information channels, because we know that some people are very interested by reading things. Some are very visual people, so we wanted to be sure that there were a lot of different channels where to find information to support children's physical activity. And we also, during this intervention, and actually it's my whole idea, that being as a parent, you always want the best to your children. So when we as a researchers, for example, or physical education teachers or instructors, when we can tell to parents what is best for their children, I'm sure that almost everyone wants to do the best. So, because we know, based on research, that there are some cognitive motivation possible to have from this research, so we try to also motivate by this way. And then after that, families were again voluntary to choose what information each family wanted to use. We also had some rewarding elements, and I'm later coming back to this. So we have annual parent meetings, and those topics that we were talking and telling about parents was that how to support children's development through physical activity, and mainly from the sensory integration point of view. So we really wanted to increase the, parents' ideas how to give multiple sensory stimulation. Then another topic was earlier research results about relationships between children's physical activity and overall physical development, to have a broad overview about what's happening in their children's life. And then the last one, of course, because we were collecting data for years, we needed to give them feedback about the results of the project from the physical activity perspective to motivate them continue. We also gave once a year practical demonstrations. There were trained physical education teachers playing with these kids. 60-minute physical activity session, 10 to 20 children in each group, and the themes were physical activity games, playing with different equipments, gymnastics, ball games, and the smiling face is there just to remind that for adult or for other children of all people, the smiling face is more rewarding element. So when parents were able to watch when their children were playing, so I'm convinced that no one wants to have such future for their children that they don't allow smiling face. So when they were seeing that their children were happy when they were moving, so I thought that it would be the best guarantee that they will allow this kind of activities also at home. Well, because some people are taking information through printed material, we twice a year offered some of these physical activity posters for summer and winter months, because the activities are a little bit different based on weather. So there were a list of different physical activities, what to do at home, both indoors and outdoors. And I really wanted to increase much more playing outdoors than indoors, but sometimes the weather don't allow, even in Finland, to go outside. So that was the main idea. One, we created also dice board game for these indoor activities, sort of gymnastic and different kind of movements. And then we gave feedback about the development of children's motor skill development on a scale of enough or good. We didn't want to show that, oh, your child is not good in that. So we thought that because normal development variation is really, really big, so it's enough or good. So we thought that this enough could motivate or not to lose the motivation to support children's motor development, but mostly physical activity playing. We also learned to use public media, which seems to be more and more important nowadays. During that time, we had twice a year one or more of these following. So popular articles about children's physical activity and motor skill development, just to spread the information. We had radio programs and information about local physical activity possibilities. For example, information about available playgrounds or sport clubs. And after 4.5 years, we analyzed what has happened during this group. and we noticed that intervention group children played more outdoors than control children did. So the red line is showing the intervention group. Also, intervention children had better locomotor skills than control children. And here I mean walking and running combination in this study. Also, perceptual motor skills of intervention boys were better than those of the control boys. So, after this trip project, we learned that it's possible to have positive effects on children's physical activity were achieved by creating positive attitudes in parents toward children's physical activity. It was the most important thing. Then we learned that increasing parents' knowledge about the importance of physical activity on children's overall development seemed to be significant. But then, parents really needed concrete ideas and models how to activate children. Also, these printed materials seem to be useful and encouraging the use of playgrounds, fields, etc. So the environment seemed to be important. And these lessons that we learned from this study, we tried to go further with the next step. So we started cooperation with Children's Channel in Finnish television, national television, and we create Let's Go TV program for four different seasons, 5 to 6 minutes little program stimulating the whole family go out, play something, do some physical activity together. And this material has been also used another family-based intervention, the impact intervention project that Arto Laukkanen, perhaps you could wave here. Yeah, he has been doing this intervention very intensively. And this family-based tailored counseling was idea to increase non-exercise physical activity in adults with a sedentary job and physical activity in their young children. So we continue to support the whole family. This is 1 year-long randomized control trial, and participants are in intervention group. There are 50 children and their parents, and control group who have 53 children and their parents. Children were 4 to 8 years old. And in this project, counseling intervention was based on social cognitive theory, but also theory of planned behavior. And one counseling session included 30-minute lecture about the importance of physical activity and the current physical activity guidelines or suggestions how active children should be. And then this lecture continued by 30-minute face-to-face discussion and individual goal setting about what their family would like to do, try to change in their normal life to increase the level of physical activity of adults and as well as children. So reinforcement by regular contact for 6 months means that there were phone discussion where it was re-evaluating goals. Did the family or parents felt that they have achieved this? Self-evaluation barriers, what they found, why it was not so good, why they didn't manage if they were planned to do so, and positive causalities. Also, feedback on motor coordination at 6 months seemed to be important, although perhaps we have been discussing that maybe it would be more efficient if it would be a little bit earlier. There were also monthly emails, seasonal tips for physical activities and For example, these tips included the net link to this TV program, which was and actually is at the moment also in internet, so each family can watch those activity sessions when they want. But the important notion is that there were no structured physical activity that was offered for the families. It was totally based on their own rhythm, own willingness, own target, own goals. And Arto has at the moment this article in process, so I just want to increase your hunger to read the real final paper, but I reveal that what we learned from this intervention, we know now even more than earlier that season really matters. Body coordination seemed to be associated with temperature, and it's logical when you think Finland was 4 really different seasons with large variation with temperature. So interventions need to focus on cold seasons when the physical activity is in its lowest. This was a little bit surprising that girls' ball handling skills improved. And this is important for girls because all the studies has shown that boys are better than girls in objective control skills, so this was good result. And moreover, because, for example, Lisa Barnett's group has already showed that object control skills predict physical activity in adolescence, so this must be some good direction. And parents felt that face-to-face discussions were most valued method by themselves. So for future interventions, face-to-face contact seems to be really important, even we have a lot of technology to use nowadays. So there seem to be no better than face-to-face situation. And few words about preschool-based intervention then. The early steps intervention was launched in 5 different European countries, and kindergarten or preschool teachers planned in each country 1-year curriculum, which was based on the idea that through the acquisition and development of motor skills, preschool children would have the desire to be involved in a healthy lifestyle, to be able to cooperate with others and respect individual differences. So that was the idea when preschool teachers started to plan curriculums for these 5 countries and 5 different preschools where to implement the curriculum. So in Finland we did this 2 kindergarten or preschool. It was planned for 8 months, 2 45-minute PE lessons per week, so it means totally 48 times. Children were 4 to 5 years old in 4 different groups. 2 of them were intervention group and 2 control groups. And preschool teachers were teaching the children. And in case you are curious to know more about this, so this project have a good web page, so you can really read more and see and hear different things about this project there. Because this is already published, so I write some results here. So this physical education curriculum showed that girls' static balance and standing broad jump were better in intervention group than the other. Boys' running speed were better, but no effects on dynamic balance or manipulative skills. The sad thing was that children's mean activity time during physical education lesson was very low. Even these preschool teachers were encouraged and teach to create physical activities during their lessons. So we noticed that 49% was spent in sedentary behavior. And when we checked carefully each child, we noticed that, for example, balancing on one foot, there were only 1%. Locomotor skills was the most biggest group of skills that were practiced for children, and then manipulative skills. So we still have a lot to do in teacher training schools and teacher training education places. We learned that physical education curriculum was affected by to locomotor and balance skills positively. But moreover, if we want to affect children's manipulative skills, it requires more possibilities for children to use different objects. And perhaps these preschool teachers were not ready to use as much different object control movements and equipments, because it's quite noisy actually. So definitely there is too much physically inactive time during PE lessons. And then another intervention that was launched in preschools, it's called HIPPA, and this word comes from Home and Childcare Based Intervention to Promote Physical Activity. And it's based on socio-ecological model. And we try to now take more different professions and together plan what would be good intervention in the childcare center. So we started by interviewing principals, tried to analyze childcare environment, their daily routines and rules, what could be done there. We also had meetings with staff at each childcare center and tried to find with staff members what they find are the possibilities and barriers that they recognized. Then we together made some goal setting for each center with their own teachers. So each center have their own goals. Also parents' wishes were listened. And during 1 year, early educators wanted to have in-service training, and their wish was that they wanted to be better to observe children's motor development, so that's what we gave them. They also wanted to have monthly tips for physical activities, so based on this earlier STRIP project, we already have a lot of ideas what these monthly tips and cards could be, and we actually published nationally family activity cards. So these were implemented in this project. We also, early educators, we made interview and intentions for futures, tried to find out how they wanted to continue with these activity tips. And for families, were offered family evenings that were physically active. Normally in Finland, for example, when parents are invited to school, they are there because they have the feeling that they are good parents when they come there, but they don't actually like to be there. But now when these parent evenings, family evenings were physically active, so they were doing some activities, the atmosphere relaxed, and it was good example that they received much more better contact with their children's teacher. So families also received monthly letters to have ideas how to be active during this season or this month. And parents also were offered possibility to try pedometers, because some of them became interested about their own physical activity level, so we wanted to support this interest further. Okay, then what we learned about this project. Children increase the amount of light activity, but not moderate to vigorous physical activity. Teachers found in-service training very useful. Monthly tips and these letters were found to be interesting and supportive both for teachers and parents. And this was something really surprising. Families increased the amount of bicycling, so something really surprising were able to achieve by this kind of intervention. Okay, this was something that we have experienced so far in Finnish interventions, and then I tried to give you some examples about what has been findings of different systematic analysis. And the most cost-effective interventions seem to be that they are executed in different institutions, which means childcare centers and schools. And I think that today we have heard quite many good examples of this also. So when we are talking about physical activity, we very often speak about moderate to vigorous physical activity, and one analysis has been trying to find out what are the strategies to increase the most moderate to vigorous physical activity, and they found that implemented in a community or institutional based design seems to be very effective. In effective studies and interventions, duration of this project has been 4 weeks or less. This is a little bit surprising, but this seemed to be the result of these analyses. Successful interventions are organized within childcare. They are teacher-led, and they are focused on increasing time for outdoor play. But they also incorporated unstructured activity. Interesting findings that need to be think further. On the other hand, Creed also mentioned about this analysis that when we tried to find out sociocultural point of view, we tried to show that create physical activity friendly atmosphere within a whole society seems to be very impactful. Combine the influence of the childcare and home environment, it seemed to be effective. Shared and common objectives among parents and childcare personnel is important. And moreover, listen to childcare staff needs and their feeling of barriers in increasing physical activity. So they have to be involved in good interventions or successful interventions. Curriculum seemed to be also important. The role in structured physical activity, what is the amount, frequency or content. Also development of motor skills. And it seemed to be that successful structured physical activity lessons lasted less than 45 minutes. So young children don't want to be, or they become too tired and it's not successful anymore if they last too long. They are also implemented 3 times or less per week. But now there's a little problem. These analyses show that we should have structured activity more, but what we have learned here and what we know about developmental psychology point of view, for example, we need to find what is appropriate balance between structures and unstructured activity. Because if we too much put pressure for children by structured activities, we are in a risk of losing benefits of children's physical activity play. That is the most important thing. Then there's risk to lose enjoyment. There's a risk to lose fun. There's a risk to lose spontaneity, freedom, or children's flow when they are playing. So, to give you some practical implications, how to try to find out this balance, perhaps, what to do. There seems to be that there's a lot of physical activity play when children have possibilities for free play. So please, give them time for free play. High amount of outdoor play on daily basis seem to be important. So every day outdoors. Quite simple. Physical equipment should be available during free play activities, as Creed also mentioned earlier in the morning. Different learning and playing environments are used in multiple ways. It's good strategy. Access to physical areas for play, green playgrounds, parks. Surprisingly, even asphalt surfaces have been increasing physical activity of children. But also forest, and interesting word, bullerby. Who knows what bullerby means? Okay. When we compare typical playground and forest, so it's obvious that when we think that children are playing, that in forest, when their environment and surface is really variation, a lot of different kind of stimulation. So it seemed to be very useful for children's motor development, physical activity, but also children's amount of different kind of play, creativity, even equality. There's one classic study of Ingen Fjortoft, and she showed that when children were playing a forest in daily basis during 1 year in kindergarten or preschool, these children learned to play together, boys and girls. There were no separation for gender or different age mixed groups. So 3-year-old children played with 5 years old, and that was totally contradictory than a normal situation when children are playing playgrounds. They try to find children who are the same age than they themselves are. Okay, now I reveal what this bullerby means. There's Finnish architecture Marketta Kyttä, who was interested about children's physical activity, and she tried to find out what is the most the environment that that inspired children be most physically active. And she found that this kind of environment where is a lot of freedom to play, lot of for trees, bunches, place where to hide themselves, build things, carry things, be creative. This kind of environment increased children's physical activity the most. And she couldn't find any word to describe such environment. other than Bullerby. And this word is inspired by Astrid Lindgren's Bullerby books. Perhaps you recognized. It seemed to be that the English name is the Children of Noisy Village. But this noisy village is English translation about this Bullerby, which is actually a Swedish word. And it's not telling anything, noisy village, so it's not good translation. English speakers have suggested that why don't you speak Adventureland, but Adventureland, it's not giving this kind of idea what would be the the best environment to increase children's physical activity. Now I let you think in your own environment is such places that could be called Bullerby. So please take an image of these pictures and think if there is such environments in your home. Staff members and early educators, then, they should encourage children to use different types of equipment and toys. Outdoor playing equipment, painting of playgrounds, play objects, large wheeled toys to pull and push with the whole body. And sometimes we ask difficult questions, but the answers may be very simple. Verbal encouragement. One previous observation study of Anne Soini showed that, for example, in Finnish childcare, personnel seldom give verbal encouragement for more physically active behavior. There was only 92% of observations didn't include any encouragement, which means that only 8% have something. And that was sad because when there was verbal encouragement, the level of physical activity was higher when children were really encouraged. So it's quite simple. Verbal encouragement is the beginning. Well, I want to let you with these ideas that we need to ensure children's possibilities for physically active play. We also need to protect children's right to play, and we need to defend against the dominance of passivity. And then, taste of Finnish language. Kiitos. Merci beaucoup. Thank you.
Thank you, Arja. Then it's time to question, and I would like to ask you if you have a question or maybe a comment. Please.
Thank you, Arja, for this very nice presentation. I do have a question, and you didn't really mention something on it, so I don't know if you really looked at it, but can you say something about the physical activity interventions, in which degree you also reach families of lower socioeconomic status?
Well, actually, I didn't pick such studies in these analyses at all. And in Finland, it seemed to be that such socioeconomical diversity is not just a problem, so we can't have real findings. They are still quite a homogeneous group. But of course, I know that different parts of the world have much more bigger problems with socioeconomic status and of families who take part of interventions. And for sure, it would be logical to think that in these families there are not just possibilities to stimulate children's activity or motor development or overall development. So all encouragement will be good.
Peut-être une question en français, et je peux traduire, ou un commentaire en français. N'hésitez absolument pas. Well, peut-être en français, et puis je traduirai. Je voudrais savoir, je vais poser la question. Les parents ne savent plus amener leurs enfants à être actifs. To your opinion, what are the reasons why the parents are not able to bring their children into physical activity today?
Today, well, I think that nowadays lifestyle is, I'm not sure how the situation you feel in your own countries, but in Finland I have a feeling that families and parents have the feeling that they are good parents if they take a car and drive their children to structured physical activities. So this means for children that they need to sit quite a long period of time in cars, and then they have a structured activity which may be quite passive. If it's good result in one intervention where educated teachers have 50% activity time for structured lessons, so it's actually not as active as free play on your own home yard, for example, or playground could be. So that's a little bit problematic, and I think that that's the reason why we as researchers need to give information through media that this just normal playing is very important and really valuable to all the time spent together with the whole family. So that's one reason, and of course nowadays it seems to be that the economical situation is bad. Many families and parents are worried about their workplaces, so they need to work long day to keep their position, which means that evenings and the time together with their children are becoming shorter and shorter. So parents are tired, children are tired because they are waiting for their parents. So current lifestyle is making a little bit worries about it. And of course, hurry is one thing. If you need to hurry all the time, so there are plenty of reasons. But I don't know if anybody can show this yet. Maybe we need 10-year time frame to show this, that this has really happened. This is only my intuition, what has happened during last 10, 15 years.
Thank you. Another question, comment? We have time. We have time.
Thank you. I'd like to know if you maybe observed the social relations between the children. If to be more active, more competent is a way to be more chosen by friends, or what if you do this?
Unfortunately, we haven't done that yet, but that's certainly the direction that we need to go with these interventions. Good point. Yes, indeed.
Yes, what about school? Do you have physical educators at primary school level and at nursery school level? Because we have that in Belgium too.
Yes.
And the second part of my question would be, how many hours of sports do they have at secondary school level?
Well, the answer to the first question, unfortunately, we don't have a physical education specialist in preschool or childcare. We just need teacher education, teach these skills to increase children's physical activity and physical education. And the second question was the amount of physical education in secondary school. In Finland at the moment we have obligatory 2 hours per week. In last season we were able to negotiate 1 more hour, but it's only for 1 grade, so it don't mean that we 7th grade there may be 2 hours, 8th grade 3 hours, and 9th again 2 hours. But then we have a lot of possibilities to choose different courses to increase the amount, but physical education, unfortunately, those courses are usually like for those children who already are physically active, and those who needed the physical activity and the physical education more, they don't choose it. So that's a problem.
Another question, last question? No, maybe. This morning, Greet, you underlined the role or the interest of the ecological model, socio-ecological model. You also underline the role of this model. And it means that promotion of physical activity is linked with a multifactorial approach, okay? In many models, parents are not there in the former models, but today they are appearing in these models. But do you know some studies underlining their typical role compared to the other context of practice or other actors? In short, do you know if some studies are underlining or identifying the specific role of parents among all other actors?
Well, yes, they are, but we need to remember that the effect of parents is very depending on children's age. Also, it seems to be that there are variations in different countries and cultures. So I think that, well, yes, there are papers and research showing this link, but it is totally cultural dependent. For example, quite many research shows that for children's physical activity, it's really important father's activity level. But for example, in Finland, and I think that there are some other countries too, that mother's educational level is actually more important than father's physical activity. So it really is cultural dependent.
Okay, merci Arja. I believe that we can applause again.